Your Sunday night news, reviews. Ray, you've got to stop clicking that keyboard. If you're gonna type with a mechanical keyboard, you absolutely have to use it on mute. Your Sunday night news.
Sorry about that. I'm still getting
I
used to
can't
having
actually hear anything at all while you are typing.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of glad I don't have a mechanical keyboard.
But yeah, welcome to the Sunday night Brokencast live. All 0 of you currently watching.
I have too many fucking windows open.
Tonight we're going to talk about E3. In case you didn't know, because you don't read the website, in which case I hate you.
And you've been living under a rock for the past week.
This last week was E3. We basically, that's all we did for the entire week.
Yeah, we were in Los Angeles for the entire week. Fun times were had.
I mean,
That is indeed what you guys did all week.
yeah, it was intense. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, so it seemed really intense from pretty much everything you guys put out. I was like, holy shit, there's so much shit here. This is nuts.
Yeah, there was a lot to go through, a lot to go over. It was intense. I mean, you know, we were expecting intensity. We were expecting.
Wow, this is cool.
What's cool? What was that?
Watch this.
I can't hear you.
And that wasn't even like 10% of like what we've. Oh, that is cool. It wasn't like what we've posted isn't even like half of what we have coming. We have so much stuff. Oh my god, we saw so much stuff in LA.
Yeah, I was pretty jealous.
Yeah. So sorry, that threw me off. What was going on in the world? I don't know what was going on there. So, yeah. Basically, I mean, we spent a week playing video games, seeing things.
Like the shit that you got, like this picture you guys posted, blue. Like I've seen it before, but it's like that shit just blows my mind every time. Like all these crazy shit they build for booths, this like crazy models they have that like they spent months working on just to throw in the trash after the convention's done.
I mean, they're not gonna throw them in the trash, but they're probably gonna sell them.
Like,
but I mean,
Nintendo's experience was intense. They had a whole booth with demos of Zelda, but then opposite that was a booth of equal size that was just like a live experience of come walk around Hyrule, and everything is from Link's perspective and proportions.
So
I hope they bring it to PAX.
If you've never been to a convention before, basically what a gaming convention is no different from any other convention. It's a large open hall with booths in it, and each of those booths is manned by a specific company. In the case of E3, it's in the Los Angeles Convention Center. There's 2 halls. Each of the halls has something in it. The main hall, South Hall, has all of the big companies. It's got your Nintendo and your Xbox and
PlayStation
and a few other big guys. IGN has their booth there. GameStop
some hardware manufacturers were there.
Yeah, I was amazed at how much hardware there was.
Honestly. Like you walked right in, and there was Turtle Beach, like right in front of you.
And booths, to get a booth is determined by the seniority, by the amount of time you've been at E3. So
so that's how. Okay, I was wondering about that.
Those guys in the front of the booth have been there the longest.
So like the first people you see are the guys that were there at the original.
Yeah, basically they've been there the longest. And obviously with Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, they get to choose where they put their booths, and they choose the back of the hall. So I mean, it's cool. It's a cool thing to do. You spend 3 days, 8 hours a day, basically immersed in video games. And if you're with the media like Ray and I are, you spend 12 hours a day immersed in video games, because when you're not on the floor, you're still writing about video games.
You're writing, you're processing
video games.
You're processing video, but then there's also the press conferences, and we got to go to 2 of them. So
that shit looked the only 2 that mattered.
That shit looked cray.
Yeah, I mean, the Sony press conference had a wall of donuts.
Yeah, I saw that picture. I was like, damn it, I want some fucking donuts.
No, you don't want to eat them. I took one off, and I was like, oh god.
Ray took one off, and it had like a hair on it, and she was like, I'm not gonna eat this.
I'd eat it anyway.
The cool part of the Sony press conference was the fact that it was in an opera house, like a legit opera house, and they had Bear McCready doing the opera. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea for a venue. I mean, it makes sense because it's like acoustically awesome. So.
I mean, Sony has said that they've been there before. Welcome to the Scream, Draco 45.
the scream. Ah!
The stream, the scream, the scream stream, the scram, the ram scram, the scramjet.
Scramweb, launch Scramwebs, go, go.
Yeah. So basically,
That sounds like a sci-fi defense system.
It is. It's from EVE Online.
Oh yeah, the scramble web. Anyway,
Fucking lol.
I remember Eve. I played. Sadly.
So it's nonstop. I mean, it's 24 hours a day almost. There are people that spend.
Well, because you go to the actual convention, then there's all the other crap, and then there's after parties.
And we didn't even make it to most of the parties. I mean, not for a lack of trying.
No, but we were also so busy.
It's just you're busy. You can't go to 9,000 different,
Right, it just didn't work, unfortunately, for us.
Yeah.
A lot of the talent goes to like the more like the YouTubers and the guys that are on Twitch. They go to the parties. They're there for the parties, and a lot of the like.
Well, because that's a. I'm trying to think of the real like technical term. Fuck.
It's like a networking opportunity. Like
It's a very good networking opportunity.
Networking. That was the word I was looking for. Networking.
But also, like, you've been talking. I'm surprised we're like 10 minutes in. You haven't talked about the fact that you ran into Jericho and Firefox again.
I mean, that was that
2 times.
3 times I ran into Jericho. Like, motherfucker couldn't get rid of that guy.
I'm not playing video games, Bear. Come on.
Yeah, I ran into Jericho at first at the PlayStation party, and then and then kind of at the, just in general twice, on the floor once, just kind of walking back and forth, and then on the floor again.
So why don't we talk about some of the games? Let's talk about LawBreakers first, because I think that, including the time you've spent at home, like it's probably the most we've played one of the games.
Including the sound, that was really loud. Whatever you just said, we didn't hear shit.
Oh, sorry.
Talk about LawBreakers.
We're not really ready to get to talking to games quite yet. I mean, we haven't even gotten through. I guess we could talk about games.
Well, like that's what it's about, right? It's about the games. We can talk about
E3
parties.
is about the networking. Like, not gonna lie.
But for our viewers, it's about the games. It's about the trailers. It's about the games. It's about learning what's new and what's coming.
Our current
next
0 viewers.
Yes, but we archive these.
The point is that E3 is more than just games, and to think that E3 is only just games. If you've never been to E3, let's do a little background, a little history on E3 first, because that's important to understand what it is about E3. So originally video game companies, and the ESA was born in 1995, I want to say. Is that right?
Yeah, 95. 94, 95.
Wow, it's not as old as I thought it was, but I guess
it was after the Mortal Kombat thing, and it was before Mortal Kombat 2, so yeah, it'd be like 94.
So the ESA, or Entertainment Software Association, is 1994, yeah. So 22 years old this year. Basically, the ESA is the trade organization for companies that make video games. It's like a union, kind of. You can think of it like a union. In the 80s, there was nothing to organize around video games. Video game companies showed their equipment at electronic shows, particularly
like
they
CES.
would show them at the 2 CESs that existed per year, or winter and summer CES. And the problem with that became that video games eventually had their own hall at CES. They had their own entire area because they were so big. They'd gotten so big. And so in 1994, all the major video game companies, after the Mortal Kombat controversy and a few other controversies that potentially could have killed video games forever, in the United States at least, came together and created this regulatory body called the ESA. And the ESA is a regulatory body, a body that watches out and makes bylaws for the people underneath it. The ESA created the ESRB, which is the ratings bureau for the United States. And
it's not just the United States, it's North America.
Or North America, sorry.
Yeah, it does North America.
Except Mexico.
And then the ESA decided, well, if we're going to be our own trade organization, we should have a trade convention. And
Makes
from
sense.
this idea was born E3. And E3 is technically called the Electronic Entertainment Expo. They literally just called it the Electronic Entertainment Expo. Just simplest name possible. And each year the ESA gathers together all of the companies that they consider to be influencers in the video game industry in Los Angeles. And it's always been in Los Angeles, I believe. I don't think it's ever been anywhere else.
No, yes it has. It was in Atlanta for a few years, actually.
Okay.
In the mid-90s, it moved from LA to Atlanta, and it was in Atlanta for I think it was E3, I think it was 97 through 98. So it's about 2 or 3 years. And then it moved back to LA.
Because I realized Atlanta sucks.
Well,
Yes.
mostly probably just because it's been extremely difficult to.
I mean, you really want to with something like that huge. You really want to be like, this is the place.
1997 and 1998, it was held in Atlanta. It's
Okay, so
always been in May or June. Usually, it's now in later on, um, in the month in July. July is a relatively new thing. It started in 2007 or so. It's died a couple of painful deaths.
There was that really weird period in '07, '09 where they held it in like an aircraft carrier or an
07,
aircraft
07,
base.
08 was really weird.
It was really downsized. It was like 10,000 people.
Understanding how E3 works, you have to basically realize that it's a trade show. It's not designed for gamers to come and play video games. It's not PAX. It's designed for video game companies to be able to show their wares to buyers. And we're not talking about individual people buyers. We're talking about Target North America. We're talking
Yeah, we're
about
talking about people
Walmart. We're
who
talking
can
about
move
EB
millions of
Games.
units.
Exactly. So like we were at the Deep Silver booth, and behind us, we got pushed out of the way at the Deep Silver booth because behind us was the main buyer for Target of North America.
So
Like,
yeah, understandably, yeah.
this is not a media event. This is not a fan event. This is an
And
event that is conceived for the ESEA's patrons to come and show. It's because it's based off of the format that that CES was based off of, and CES is at its core a sales show. So it is designed to sell product, and that's why it's had some troubles because
Yeah, you show your product and go, please put it in my stores. Or
exactly.
please put my stuff in your stores. We can both make a ton of money off of this.
And the thing is, like, at least some of our peers in the gaming press also were calling this year like the death of E3. This is the last one, but they had record attendance of 70,000.
70,000, and it's important to remember that in 2008, only 5,000 people attended E3 in 2008.
But the model they're
That was
basing
it.
off
5,000 people.
the whole model doesn't require a whole lot of people. You require. I mean, it's great to have lots of media people there. Don't get me wrong in that regard. But if its target market is procurement, then they don't need that many people. It's irrelevant, essentially.
And remembering, of course, that in 2007, 2008 were some of the worst years for the big recession that happened, and it's natural for it's not natural for a show of E3 size and a trade show like E3 to go through the retractions and expansions it's gone through, and so the ESA has been forced on multiple occasions now to reconsider what they're going to do.
And the other point that some of our colleagues were saying was, well, Activision and EA, they're not coming to the show. They're not having, big booths. So, like, big people are pulling out. EA did pull out completely, but it turns out that no, Activision was there. They were just kind of behind the scenes. They weren't.
EA will be back next year.
Why would you not? Why? I mean, it's so much more work to have your own venue. And I don't know that
it wasn't bad.
I'm not gonna lie. We went to EA Play. It was fun.
It was fun.
I felt like it was fun. I enjoyed EA Play. Wow, that's a lot of noise behind you. I need like an executive mute function. I felt like EA Play was fun. EA Play was a much smaller, much more intimate environment, and I think maybe EA was open to the public as well. So I think maybe EA is onto something.
Yeah, because you mentioned that before you guys went to E3 that they were possibly considering making it open to the public.
It's not the first time we've heard the rumor about it.
But I'm sure that rumor pops up probably.
We heard the rumor. You know what? EA Live. We'll get to EA Live in a second. It was bad, but EA Play was fun. Like they had Titanfall.
You're confusing E3 Live and EA Play.
Oh, sorry. E3 Live was a shit show. We'll get to that in a second. But EA Play was fun. They moved you briskly. We saw most of it in like an hour or two. The only problem with EA Play was that like they had you tap on and off with this like RFID bracelet for everything, and it's like why? Why do you need that tracking data? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, there was some good reasons and some bad reasons with the RFID bracelet. It was nice that that the RFID bracelet was used with an email to send selfies. I mean, if you took a selfie, they tapped it and sent it to you. I'm sure they were tracking if you'd done their demos. The other thing about EA Play was that EA Play was a venue also this year for the Madden NFL Sports Championship. which was a multi-million-dollar championship event. Not that any of us give a shit about it, but there is a large community out there that does give a shit about Madden, and
Oh yeah.
that community was very pleased with the Madden event, having never really gotten a major Madden event before. That community was immensely pleased that they were given an event.
So they were given a stage, basically.
Exactly, they were given a stage, and it had never been given one before, and that
Okay.
made them they were very pleased with that.
Well, when you get your own like, here, this is yours. I mean, that's a big like, now those guys can go, hey, we're legit in the eyes of, we can, it's a legit tournament or whatever, or whatever it is, it's a legit community in that regard. That now we've been given a venue or a stage at this venue and all that stuff.
That's exactly right, and we know that E3 isn't going to be this. Like I said, this is not the first time E3 has died a death. 2007 and 2008 was an entirely different animal for E3.
But I mean, it's if the economy goes down, the first thing that is affected is luxury goods, and luxury goods are video games. Let's be honest about it.
So, just to give you an idea, in 2007, about 10,000 people attended E3. 2008 was the lowest ever attended E3. It had only 5,000 attendees.
But this year was
70.
70.
But they also had
70,000 people attended E3 this year.
But they also had booths and stuff for things that didn't exist back in 08, 09, like Twitch and
the new
user-created media. New media had a huge presence there.
I mean, I don't think Twitch had that big of a presence. They were there, but their booth, they had, certainly not as big of a booth. Twitch has their own convention. One of the reasons that people are saying that E3 is starting to become unneeded is because all these other people have their own conventions.
Well, there will always be but no one buys rights to copies of games at TwitchCon.
Well, that's true. And so there'll always be a need for E3.
Sorry. Yeah, there's always that need for that trade show, whether it be sewing. There's probably a fucking Swordmakers convention somewhere.
There is. It's called BladeCon.
Yeah, BladeCon. I mean, there's all that stuff. It's a trade show where you show off the coolest, newest toys, tools, techniques. The guys that are considered masters in whatever particular, functionality or whatever we're talking about. I mean, there's always a need for that, no matter how small the community is. There's always a desire for that. And E3 especially. I mean, Walmart still has to have a venue where, Walmart doesn't want to spend time going to each publisher, which there are.
And it's not just about buyers and publishers and sellers. It's also a great opportunity for developers to connect with each other as well. I mean, there is GDC and GDC
developers have GDC and other things. I disagree. I don't think it's as important.
But
I still think it's an important facet.
No, it's definitely a facet for sure because they're all there, so you can't help but talk to each other.
It's there, but it's just not as important as a lot of other things. I don't think
it's like every other con. It's got a main function, which is you're promoting, hey, put my stuff in your store. We'll make you tons and tons of money. But all that other stuff is going on right behind that, There's a million things that are directly behind that main purpose.
That's correct. That's what E3 is for, and that's why E3 will exist as it does. Now, the real question that has come up, I guess, especially this year, as Ray alluded to, is whether or not we're going to see an E3 next year that is for the fans. And we can talk a little bit here about E3 Fan Fest, right? Which was...
Oh, God, E3 Live was
just a shit show.
We waited in line. So if you had a media badge or an E3 badge, you got entrance to E3 Live if you wanted to. And so we were going to go, or we had to go for some business reasons.
Well, we should tell them what E3 Live is first, I guess.
Okay, so
I haven't even heard of this. So
E3 Live is an evening venue that the ESA sets up. Kind of an outdoor venue where they have
public access E3. It was supposed to be public access E3.
Okay.
It was.
But what it ended up being was here is 6 or 10 medium-sized outdoor tarp booths like you'd see at a fair or something
Okay, yeah, fairly.
And it was mostly stuff that you could see at other cons the Loot Crate had a booth, WB had a booth. These are all things that we've seen at other much larger public conventions.
Facebook had a big booth. The two largest booths were Warner Brothers and hang on, I'm gonna bring up the map really quick here. So the two largest booths were Warner Brothers and Facebook. What? There were
what?
12 booths total. in addition to a few other things. And honestly, the booths were people like Loot Crate, Razer, Alienware. There was an E3 live store. The only games that Monster had a booth. Like, what the fuck?
Were they selling monsters?
I don't know. They brought this cool truck and were like, "Yeah, we have a truck," and it was blasting rap music.
Well, yeah, that's what Monster does.
There were 4 booths that were actually gaming related. Warner Brothers had all their Lego games.
So there was something of a disconnect between what they're probably if they do it again next year, I would bet money that it's completely different.
I hope so, because the feedback I'm giving them right now is it was terrible.
Well, yeah, and they're going to see that feedback probably from a lot of people. I mean,
and I feel bad for the people like who showed up in like full cosplay.
People like waited in line for like an hour to get into this.
Yeah.
I mean, and the only gameplay demos that were there, HTC had a Vive there. I think they had 1 or 2 Vive tents. HTC has this cool like mobile Vive tent demo, which is like a little tent, and then you go inside it and you play a Vive game inside of it for a few minutes. So that's kind of cool. So they had a couple of those there, pop-up games, who you've probably never heard of, because I had never heard of them prior to E3.
Never heard of it.
And Warner Brothers, and EA brought Titanfall. And it was also silly to me, and I didn't understand why EA chose to bring Titanfall 2 when they had their own event right across the street.
Double exposure. I mean,
double exposure.
Tickets to both events sold out almost instantly.
The coolest thing, and the only thing that I thought was cool about E3 Live, was there was a giant fucking Titan in the middle of it.
Yeah, I saw that picture. Oh my god, that looked fucking epic.
Oh, and also the giant Doritos arcade machines.
What was that? I never got to.
It was the stage. It was the stage where they were putting on entertainment, but it was shaped like a giant arcade machine.
I mean, there was apparently reason to attend. I don't know what it was. If you're watching, tweet the stream, guys, because we don't have anybody watching us right now. A little sad. Mostly because I think it's the playoffs right now. It is the NBA finals are going on. We're running up against a tough crowd.
Who cares about the Cavs? Seriously, I live in this state and I don't give a shit.
A lot of people do, unfortunately. So, I mean, we saw that E3 live event, and just a disaster. I mean, just an absolute waste of time and money to go to that event, to see that event, to even try to get in. Was just, I mean, we waited in line to get in.
They didn't have a fast line for people who had a coordinate E3 proper credential, which seemed like a mistake.
And people did wait to get in. I mean, we heard from more than one group of people, like, we're going to go to this. And, like, we also heard from people like, oh, well, we want to go to this, but we don't know what it is. Like, it was terribly advertised.
So it just didn't get a good...
I bet you next year they'll have some of the theater demos, the ones that can take 30, 40 people at a time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Don't get me started on theater demos. I was so mad about we could talk about this a little bit later, but 2K guys, don't make $1.5 million booth and then have a theater demo. Like,
their actual booth was cool with like the live jazz and stuff.
Oh, their booth was hella cool.
Huh?
Unfortunately, it was also just a theater demo, which was really frustrating.
Come watch gameplay footage that we could stream to you.
It was not okay.
And then there's just the atmosphere of being at E3 itself and being in that media room, filled with our peers and working on stuff.
That one media room you guys were in that the second vlog, that shit was nuts.
That was, which one are you talking about? Talking about the one that had all the people in it?
No, the one that had no, it wasn't the light up
beanbag chairs and stuff.
No, it was one with it was I think it was Lucid Sound, the bigger guy.
That was a hotel room.
Yeah, that was a hotel suite. Yeah.
That was the Lucid Sound suite. Yeah, that was pretty nice.
That was pretty awesome setup they had there. Regardless of the fact that it's a hotel suite or whatever, but still, that's awesome. Like, that was cool. Like, I saw that, I was like, man, that's like super well stocked and shit. Like, that's how you cater to the media.
Well,
the Sony party was similar.
That is exactly what old E3 was like, and people who have been to E3 many times will speak about old E3 prior to 2008.
I hate to say it, but everyone talks about everything that way, and it's not always true.
Well, but with E3 it is, because at one point E3 existed solely and entirely to sell to vendors. And
right.
So when a vendor comes to you, it's the same anywhere. If you're in sales, you understand this. If you're in marketing, you understand this. If you sell ads, you understand this. When someone who is a potential potential client comes to look at your product, you entertain them.
Yeah, you give them a nice, you sit in nice chairs, you have drinks.
Exactly.
When it's a formal kind of business sell stuff.
I mean, this is something that I got a chance to talk to Ray about when we were at E3, because we did have a couple of business meetings. Actually, we missed a couple of business meetings. A couple of people ditched us for business meetings, which is a little depressing. But we did have a couple of business meetings, which I won't go into too many details about in terms of professional courtesy. But basically, what happens is when you have a business meeting like that, especially if you're trying to sell a product, which, let's be honest, we are trying to sell a product, that product is broken joysticks. When you are trying to sell a product, you meet with someone who is a potential advertiser or a potential other other person to come and hang out with you or whatever. When you meet with that person, you treat them in a manner that is as if they are a customer. So, you take them.
Yeah, it's essentially like a customer relationship.
It's exactly what it is. It's a customer style relationship. And so you treat them as though they are a customer. And that is what we got with PlayStation and with Lucid Sound. We did not get that with Xbox. Apparently there was an Xbox after party, and it was actually there, and we just had to walk into it, and we missed it.
We missed it. The weirdest thing was that, like, 10 Cloverfield Lane had a booth in one of the hall, like, not in the halls themselves, but, like, in the entryway area on the upper floors, and I was like, why is this here? And they had people, like, completely, like, dressed up as the main character. It's like, this feels out of place.
I mean, there was a lot of things that were weird. There was a lot of strange things at E3. I mean, it's still... the LA Convention Center is big. It's hard to fill it. So the ESA has long relied upon filler, for lack of a better term.
Everyone needs filler.
It's just that there are things that they want. You want to fill the expo hall.
Well, because the more full it is, the more people will come.
And that's the double-edged sword. Is the more people that come to E3, the less it seems like it's an exclusive event. The less it seems like it's something created for buyers, and the more it kind of feels like a PAX.
Yeah.
I mean,
there is that. That's true.
PAX has become a threat to E3 for lack of a different way to say it.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair assessment, I think. But again, even if PAX takes over, the majority of whatever, I don't think it probably won't be the trade show just because it's built on a different model.
It's not going to be the trade show, but the question is,
will it just take away pretty much everything that matters?
So if you ask me what the ESA should do, now ESA, if you're listening, which you're not, I'm sure, but if you are, here's my advice to you. Go back to having only about 5,000 people at E3. Don't
make it a very exclusive event.
Everybody into E3.
No, I disagree.
Well, let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
Don't let everybody into E3.
Time for point and counterpoint on broken joysticks.
The more people that you let into E3, the more likely it is that vendors are not going to feel special, and they're not going to feel like it's an event for them. And the point of you want to have it. You already have two shows. You have the executive show that happens. Is that in May?
DICE, that's in May. Yeah.
It's right around. I know it's right around BlizzCon.
But DICE is also really high level. Like, I know we joke and say "fuck you, money," but that's like CEOs.
But they broke up. What I'm saying is they already broke the con in half because those people used to come to E3.
Right.
And they started doing that a few years ago. And if you want to take that, that's fine. If you want to have a fan convention, have a fan convention. You can't compete with PAX. You can't. There's 4 PAXs now. They're already set up and ready to go. If you want E3 to be successful, you need to return E3 to a more exclusive event. Letting more people in is not the solution. Letting 70,000 people in to your convention is not the solution. Now, I know a lot of those people are paid people, and the ESA needs that money to operate their conventions. And that's an unfortunate side. That's an unfortunate side effect of the way that the convention atmosphere is now.
Can I make my counterpoint?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
Counterpoint.
Counterpoint. So this is one of the largest E3s we've seen, but it was also one of the most diverse in terms of the actual experiences that you could have, because you could walk into, say, the Deus Ex booth and check out like this cool 3D camera that would track your hands. You could go upstairs to the meeting rooms and we checked out Call of Duty behind closed doors and some other games. Or you could go to South Hall and go to the IGDA booth and check out indies. Like, there was such a breadth of content available for everyone to see. You could check out the Zelda game, or you could go, chill with some indie devs, or you could go, check out Natsume's booth and check out the new Harvest Moon. Like, I think the more people and more experiences that E3 has to offer, the better the coverage and the better informed that the gaming public can be, because
they're better informed. Yeah, the problem is that they're better informed, but there's also way more of them. If you want to return your convention to feeling like it is exclusive, then you need to go back to pre-2009.
And here's the thing for us, for people in our industry and our size, so a medium-sized site, if it goes back to exclusivity, we're not going to be there.
No, we will still be there. It has always been important to the ESA to get media there. The ESA does not exist without media coverage.
But they'll invite the Newsweeks, the IGNs, the GameSpots. They won't need Broken Joysticks and other medium-sized sites, because
there's only so much that those guys do, and it's basically free to have you guys go there.
That's true.
For
there
them.
was so much cool stuff to see.
Media doesn't. We're giving them tons of free advertising because we're talking about it.
Did you know, Fiona, that someone built an escape room in Southall?
Oh, what?
An escape room.
Know what that is?
An escape room is it's like a challenge. It's like an adventure game in real life where you.
One of those. Oh, you're like trapped in a room. You have to puzzle.
Yeah.
That's cool.
See, that's cool. If E3 was smaller, that experience wouldn't have existed, because that was an indie experience. And
they still have to have that space filled. The thing is that this year was the most alarming that I've known of E3 since I've started following it, which, given, is only before the 2008 collapse. But it was alarming because when I was in Southall, and you can see this in the vlogs, shout out to the vlogs, check them out, they're really good.
So much empty space.
I saw that. It's like, it's empty. Like, why is this empty? They didn't even put up some fake walls or something.
Well, you can see the footprint, and that is where Disney's booth was supposed to go.
Why did Disney not show up?
Because Disney.
Oh yeah, they discontinued games. That's
2 months before the convention, Disney decided to exit the gaming sphere entirely. There's been a lot of talk about why. No one really knows.
Because they're making too much money off of Star Wars and they can't afford it.
Because they want to farm it out to third parties. They can do it cheaper and probably better.
They're doing the game. They're going to do the Games Workshop model. Just give it to people and let them build a ton of games based on.
I think there is a lot of that involved. I think there's a very good chance that what Disney wants to do. Disney has a lot of properties now. Disney has Marvel. Disney has Star Wars. Disney has the Lego licenses that go with Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, they have a lot of licensed properties, and I think
I think they're basically deciding at this point that the games are not their core business, and they're going to let other people handle it.
That's exactly what they're doing. That's why.
If they have 30 companies make 50 games, and some of them suck, people will forget the shitty ones and remember the good ones.
That's exactly right.
So that's going to be Disney's game strategy. That's what I'm gonna throw out there. That's probably their strategy on games for the next 10 or 20 years.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't know about 10 or 20 years. The games industry is notorious for reversing their own decisions within a week. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, they're clearly here to essentially.
Disney, it's a bad Disney game.
They clearly wish to prevent them to be able to maximize how many games they can make in a minimum amount of time. And to do that, you need to have other developers on board. You need a Call of Duty model where you have at least 2 developers working on yearly installments.
And Games Workshop, to totally sidetrack, is doing the same thing with the Warhammer universe. They're giving out small licenses to a bunch of people, a bunch of games.
The difference is, hey, Zenergy, yeah, we're on early because we want you guys to be able to watch. That's why we came on a little earlier today.
And we have a lot to talk about.
Because fuck you, Game of Thrones.
Actually, and the other thing is that, with Games Workshop, they don't own that license, right? That license was owned by THQ, and THQ went out of business.
Well, that means they got their license back.
No, they didn't, because THQ went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and which means that THQ was forced to sell their available assets to pay debts. So they don't own it. Games Workshop does not own the rights to make their own games.
Who owns it right now? Because they were liquidated.
It was, yeah, exactly. It was sold off.
I'm pretty sure Games Workshop bought that back because they've now, look how many games are being developed by so many different companies right now. Go to Steam and look up Warhammer. There's about 30 games now.
It was bought by Sega. They're all published by Sega.
So
I
I
think
mean,
if you look at them, they're almost all published by Sega. There's a few other licenses that were not covered, because, like, for example, the Focus Home Interactive (FHI) picked up Mordheim, which is Warhammer, which is the non-Warhammer 40K game. It's in Warhammer Fantasy Universe, and
it
then
doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, it's another story.
Mordheim.
No, I meant like the Warhammer universe.
Oh, it doesn't? The Fantasy
No.
Universe? I haven't.
No.
I don't follow it enough to know.
It'll take too long to explain, and it's way sidetracking. We can talk about it later.
Well,
So
basically, THQ had to sell their assets, and I believe that it was Sega that ended up purchasing that.
They purchased
license.
Creative Assembly, and they purchased
It
they purchased
doesn't.
a bunch of stuff. Anyway, we're sidetracking onto old stuff. Let's talk about the press conferences.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
were
So,
there, smack in
so
the center.
all right. So how many press conferences were there first?
Well, there were 6 proper press conferences, but we only
there were-
attended 2.
Okay. So what were the proper press conferences? What? Go down the list.
EA, Ubisoft, PC Gaming Showcase, which was a bunch of companies, Microsoft, Sony,
And then Nintendo's Treehouse, which is
Nintendo Treehouse, which isn't a press conference, but more of a live stream. Yeah.
Okay. So what was the first one you guys went to?
Microsoft,
We
10
went-
a.m. Monday
yeah.
morning.
We only went to
Okay.
the Microsoft and Sony ones. The Microsoft one was incredibly boring, at least for me.
I enjoyed it.
Except when they said they were going to have the greatest density of pixels ever. That was fucking hilarious.
No, it was the highest quality pixels.
Yeah, actually, the developers next to me actually burst out laughing when they said that. By the way, it's been removed from the archive stream video of it. Like, I guess they realized how stupid that
They
actually.
So
cut
some-
out, they
So someone
cut
did.
out the audio.
So someone did a
It's
goof.
just gone. So when they did at the end, they did this like I don't know, what do you call it, a fucking teaser for a console. The Bethesda one was also Zen was also a part of. It was Bethesda and their press conference was like combined. Bethesda and who else was it that was in their press conference?
I don't know because I was on a bus to LA at the time. So
It was like Bethesda and.
was it Bethesda and id?
Well,
That sounds
Bethesda
probably right.
Owns, like,
id.
so.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I
That
guess they
sounds
did
right.
have their own. I thought that they shared with someone else, but I guess they had their own. I don't know. I don't understand why the small companies get a press conference.
It's all who buys the space. It's all about money.
Ubisoft doesn't need a press conference. They don't have anything to talk about.
Bethesda's not a small company. They own
and
Fallout and
both of
Elder
your
Scrolls.
both of your cameras just crashed. So if you could reload your cameras, that'd be stellar.
Damn you, camera.
Yeah,
I found Microsoft's
it's coming back up. There we go.
I found Microsoft's experience to be like
Mine
they
looks
rushed
frozen.
us in, rushed us out. But it was I found it interesting. Like I had a great view right in front of the big screen. I took some great photos, and like I was hyped when they showed Akuma in Tekken, when they showed
Oh, they're still making Tekken games.
when they-
I
Tekken
need to
7.
guys. I got to restart Skype call real quick because it's blanking you out. You're really
Okay.
dark. Just 1 second.
Yeah, I noticed that. We're super dark.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, y'all. Skype. I'm on an old version of Skype, and sometimes it dies, but it's an ad-free version of Skype. So, okay,
All
let's
right.
see if we can get cameras working.
Woo! Hey, we're the right colors now.
There we
Yay.
go. Look at that. Everybody.
There isn't like a shadow over our cameras for some reason.
Yeah. That's just because I'm running an older version of Skype. So when your cameras crash and they come back up, you know. Okay. So technical difficulties are over. / So the press conferences. I mean, the biggest thing for me about the small press conferences, your EA probably deserves their own press conference at this point. They publish enough games that they probably deserve.
they have their own convention now. So
EA,
But I mean, you're still gonna put a
Ubisoft and Bethesda guys. Like, does
no, I
Ubi-
think
do-
Bethesda deserves it.
what the fuck does Bethesda publish that they deserve their own public press conference?
Fallout and Skyrim alone are large enough to warrant it.
Oh,
And then you add in
see.
Dishonored and the id stuff, and they
Yeah,
have
I think they're trying to spread their weight around with Dishonored to try and make it its own major property like the Fallout and Oblivion. I don't know if it'll work, but
Palu, welcome to the stream. I can't pronounce your name. I'm probably butchering it. I'm so sorry.
that's why you just say super.
Super, welcome to the stream.
Sony's press conference was also. I screamed so hard that I couldn't. My throat was sore and I was shaking.
Oh, Jim. The entire
the
audience
Kojima.
was just screaming Kojima. So for the Sony press conference, we unfortunately enjoyed the pre-press conference refreshments a little heavily.
Well, beverages, you bevved up, were you?
So, well, here's how the Sony press conference went down. So, they started the press conference itself was at 6:30. Prior to the press conference, there was a 2-hour reception,
Okay.
with
That's a long reception.
unlimited
Jesus.
open bar and
Oh.
unlimited food. Um,
Hammer time. I mean, I'm totally a legit journalist.
yeah, Ray just vanished. Reppin'
Yep.
pepperonis. She'll come back eventually.
Oh
So
yeah, stuff happens.
we went to that, which was
That's
amazing.
a really long reception. But I mean, it's a meet and greet. It's to talk to. It's like every other reception.
I mean, it took that long for some people to get in. There was a massive line, and we got in with our passes pretty quickly. We had our barcodes. We scanned right in. Everything was pretty easy and simple.
Cool.
And so we got to spend some time, about an hour and a half, enjoying the hospitality of Sony of America, which included several open bars and...
That's surprisingly generous. Like, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but that seems really, really generous.
Well, that's the kind of thing that E3 used to be about. Like you said, it's about entertaining potential buyers.
Potential buyers, yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing that you would have seen at an older E3 that isn't there as much anymore, and a lot of people don't get the chance to see. But we saw it at Sony, and then so after that 2-hour little like reception window, we then went and we then went inside to the press conference itself, and the press conference itself was about an hour long. Oh, hey, look, there's Ray. She's back. You came back.
Yes, I'm back.
I was gonna say you're muted, but
We're just on the Sony press conference itself. So we went into the press conference itself. Ray and I, unfortunately, were not paying as much attention as we should have been, and we did not rush the doors. So we ended up in the upper balcony, which wasn't a huge problem because it is an opera house, and the staging was very good, and there was plenty of space to see everything.
Yeah, I think the view was fine. I just lament the lack of cell reception that was available.
So then we watched the press conference, which was very fun. I enjoyed. Oh, Super already left. So sad. Goodbye, Super. I missed you. Goat. Goodbye, Goat. I miss you too already. Ripping pepperonis. So we watched the press conference, which was great. And then after the press conference was over, Sony didn't say anything about it, but we went downstairs and I followed the line. There's some people were going out of the hall, some people were going to the right. We followed the people headed to the right, and
let's just go this way.
well, it was an open reception. We ended up in the after party, basically. The after party, which was awesome.
The after party was awesome, but I was disappointed with the games they had. Like, it was just PSVR demos. Like, none of the big stuff that they announced that was playable, like God of War. Or,
well, a lot of that stuff was still...
all that stuff was not playable. It was
early.
all
I mean, it wasn't...
It was all that stuff was on the show floor, but they could have had a few stations set up. Like, oh no.
I didn't mind at all. There was much food and drinking at the Sony press conference. It was very decadent. I enjoyed it massively. There was a ton of opportunity for networking. I met up with a lot of people. I got a lot of cards, did a lot of good networking.
I mean, it was two people's jobs to carry around a cart full of chicken wings.
It wasn't a cart. It was like a table. They were carrying a table, which was just a clear piece of plastic with chicken wings on it.
You don't have to tell me to get drunk twice or even once.
Mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
But let's go back to the actual conference itself and
what is there to say about the conference? I mean, everybody here tuned in on the stream. Like, what is there to say about the conference?
Oh, what did we think about it? Like, I'm really confused by the Kojima game. It's, oh my god, Kojima's standing right there. But, like, okay, it's Norman Reedus holding a baby. Is the baby going to be his clone? Like, this game is...
we don't know. That was a teaser for a teaser for a teaser. You know, it was a pre-rendered in an engine who God only knows what engine it was in.
Well, see, it's doing its job right here because we're here speculating about it, and we'll be doing it for weeks while they're just sitting there laughing.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And of course, everybody is saying that Microsoft won E3, and the reason that they're saying Microsoft won E3 was because of the Project Scorpio announcement. I disagree. I think Sony won E3.
I think Sony did a better job. They had more games.
Sony had more games, but that's just me. I feel that way because of the games. I know there's a lot of people that don't feel that way. I know there's a lot of people that feel as though that Microsoft won because of the Scorpio announcement. Can we just talk about the ridiculousness of the Scorpio announcement really quick? So,
I mean, I think they did it to kind of head off any possibility of Sony, announcing Neo and showing it off. Like, they wanted to make sure they had something. They had to.
So, the Scorpio announcement...
Please explain the Scorpio announcement.
So, Microsoft announced the specs for their new Xbox, which they're calling Project Scorpio.
Okay.
The numbers they
It's
announced don't make any sense.
It's a leap in hardware. So they didn't actually announce the detailed specs, like how much RAM or what the clock speed is or what the graphic architecture
Somebody's got
is.
sirens.
What they did
That would
say
be Ray.
was that it's 6 teraflops, and 6 teraflops, the actual number, the processing number, puts it in line with the high-end, new generation of video cards like the 1070 and the AMD 480X.
They said 6 teraflops at 320 gigabytes per second. That's not possible. I'm sorry, Microsoft, but unless you're literally creating your own architecture, you're going to custom make your own chips, that's not going to happen.
That's what they did with the 360.
They will
I don't know why they're not.
The 1080, NVIDIA's newest card, the 1080, top of the line, very, very top of the line, literally 10,000 CUDA cores in that thing, is running slower than that.
Yeah, but they might be getting
You
some
want
kind
to tell me that Microsoft is going to be able to somehow pull out of their collective butts this thing that can process at a speed better than the 1080?
Yes, because they're probably using next generation technology from AMD.
What next generation technology?
These companies are always working 2 or 3 iterations ahead.
You can only make the transistors can only get so small. We're already on a 2 nanometer architecture. I mean, we're already on like a 2 or 3 nanometer architecture. It cannot get that much smaller. I can't believe it.
You'd be surprised, but I mean, we'll just have to see. Really, I mean, it's now we're playing the waiting game. Are they bluffing and just hoping for the best, or are they really going to pull something crazy out of their hats?
We're not going to know until the boxes are actually in people's and reviewers' hands.
And the problem,
and they take them apart.
We'll see. I mean, if Microsoft really did stick a 1080 into an Xbox and call it a day, well, fie on me. But you know what? I don't think they're going to do that.
I think it's going to be better than a 1080.
Oh, we'll see, I guess.
I think they're going to take a loss on the box.
My girlfriend, who is a PhD in computer science, is very angrily texting me and telling me that a 14 nanometer architecture could accomplish that level of processing, and that the NVIDIA 1080 that's sitting in her lab has a similar set of specs. So I guess I'm wrong on that. Thank you, Daisy. Welcome to the stream.
Shut down.
In all honesty, it's probably
I will gladly eat
Polaris
crow when
10
it's
based.
my time. The point is that I don't think it's real. I think they just made those specs up because.
No, I think it is real because AMD is poised to launch their next generation, also desktop chipsets, codenamed Zen, in the fall or early 2017. So it makes perfect sense if they're developing the new Polaris cards that launch this month and Zen in later this year. Xbox Next or Scorpio that launches in a full calendar year from now, longer than that holiday of next year. It's more than possible that they could put that in a box.
You are such an AMD fangirl. So
how long are we gonna have to wait before we get in review hands of these new Xboxes?
It's next holiday.
Next holiday.
So I will also back up what you just said by saying that Daisy says that the Zen architecture is coming, but no one has seen it and no one knows if it works. So you're just fangirling on AMD here. It's not. There's no reason for it to work.
Unfortunately, like most everything else, we just have to sit on our hands and wait.
It's speculation at this point because we don't know.
That's the worst part. Is it could be, or it could be a total poo in a box.
That's what I'm saying. Talking about what's actually there.
Will it watch TV?
I mean,
no, Microsoft's done with TV.
That's the joke. JPEG. So, I guess we can disagree on the hardware specs. We know the specs for the PS Neo. They've been released, the full specs. We know when the PS Neo is coming out. We know that it will be out. I think they said holiday this year, right?
Really? That's fast.
It's October.
October this year.
Developers have said that games that come out in October have to have both modes enabled. So
and we know that the PS Neo is not a major upgrade. It's just there because it's going to be able to do 4K and everything.
Well, it's a major graphics card upgrade because the graphics capability of the APU in the PS4 is equivalent to a 7870, and the PS4 Neo GPU is equivalent to a Crossfire 7870. So there is a major bump in graphics output, and the processor speed I think is 300 or 400 megahertz higher.
But basically, yeah, it's just a 4K gaming upgrade and a graphical update, but not a new console. So slapping some new parts in there and calling
It's
it
like
mid.
taking your settings from medium to high or medium to very high, probably.
Well, so
Okay.
I mean that's what we heard about hardware, and I think new hardware is coming. I don't think new hardware is bad. I don't. I mean, what do you think about the fact that we're talking about moving the hardware cycle down here from 6 years, 5 or 6 years, down to like a year to 2 years?
Oh my God,
It's not going to be a year to 2 years.
my
You're not gonna
budget
release
can't
new
handle
boxes
this.
every 2 years. That's not
Rob,
going
you
to
don't own any consoles, anyways.
Yeah, no, I not any new ones. No, I'm a generation. Actually, I'm now 3 generations behind
I think
because of
that
my
this
dog.
is generally a good thing if they can remain in some form of backwards compatibility. Like if my PS4 and Xbox One will still play Halo 6 or 7, even at 30 frames a second, and I can still enjoy that game, cool. I mean, this stretches the lifespan of the box like it did to a similar length of the last generation, where the Xbox 360 was alive for almost 10 years, but without, restraining developers to developing for old tech and restraining manufacturers from manufacturing technologies that become so outdated that they become more expensive than using current technology.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the traditional console hardware cycle exists for a reason, and if they break it, and now they're breaking it. I mean, it's not if they break it anymore. They are breaking it, and since it is now breaking, we'll see what happens, I guess.
Well, it'll be whatever the market can sustain, realistically.
So now let's talk about games.
Dun dun dun. I gotta pee.
Biggest disappointment, that zombie game
I'll be right back.
What zombie game?
that they closed the presser with that used the same zombie model over and over and looked really generic and could have been confused for any Daisy clone on Steam.
Oh, you're talking about Sony's bike riding hardcore game.
Yeah, I don't even remember I was going to say Let It Die, but that's the good one. I don't even remember the name of the game.
Yeah, the game it was a weak closer. I guess we can talk about why. We can talk about at least what we think is why. The speculation is that they intended to close with Red Dead Redemption 2, and in light of the tragedy in Florida, specifically Orlando, that they chose not to close with a game that was human on human violence. It was still violent, but it was human on zombie violence, which I think is more accepted.
And it looked rough. It looked like it was like an alpha, like pre-alpha even.
The game looked like a rough cut. The game looked like a rough cut. That was certainly not my biggest disappointment of E3. My biggest disappointment of E3 was virtual reality. To be honest, I played virtual reality for the first time. There's going to be an article about this tomorrow. I touched virtual reality for the first time, and I was extremely unimpressed.
Yeah, but you also played an in-development, free-to-play playing game. Like, you didn't play one of the premier games. Like, I played Dangerous on a setup that I could never afford in my life, and it was amazing.
I guess that's what it is. I mean, maybe if I'd sat down in that Elite demo, I would have felt the same. So,
Subnautica in VR.
wow. Apparently, if I talk the word game a lot, people retweet it on Twitter. That's awesome. So, I mean, it's all about
Oops.
E3.
And there were a number of VR, like, not wannabe competitors, but lower tier headsets that were being shown at E3.
Oh, there's always going to be lower tier stuff. So, what was your favorite game of E3? So we've heard about your least favorite game.
What was
your favorite game?
What was that zombie game? What was the name of that zombie game? I missed that.
Oh, fucking no. I don't even know.
I don't remember now.
Zombie Killer 5? I mean,
It was whatever
looking it up.
whatever Sony closed their press conference with. So I think my favorite game of the show, and the game that surprised me the most. Now I didn't get to play a lot of games, guys. I spent a lot of time networking. Ray was playing most of our games. The game that I think blew me away the most, and I'm sure a lot of you are going to expect me to say LawBreakers on this one. It wasn't LawBreakers, probably because I played LawBreakers at PAX East as well. So it didn't blow me away as much. It was still fun. But my favorite game of the show was Deep Silver and Volition's new game, which the name is escaping me.
Agents of Mayhem.
Agents of Mayhem.
that is a very undescript name. Please.
Yeah, you can elaborate, and then I'll get to my opinions after you.
Basically,
Tell us why it's your game of the show.
You take a Saints Row game and you kind of give it a more sci-fi twist. So if you played Saints Row 4, which was a very sci-fi-y take on Saints Row,
Right.
you can feel it a little bit in there. You kind of get like a a little bit of Crackdown, a pinch of Crackdown, and a little bit of that Saints Row Volition magic. Throw them into a general sort of generic Borderlands-y type game with a lot of enemies, upgrades, and like grenades and superpowers and things, and you mix that all together.
That actually sounds pretty cool. Like I'm
you
liking
get
this formula.
You get the game. I think it was a fun game. Ray got a chance to play it only briefly. I played it a lot more than she did because we were on a time crunch, unfortunately. I enjoyed it.
I just think it's too early. They've made a lot of cool promises that this game is going to tie into the broader Saints Row universe, and what the premise is that you're like a super powered, like kind of like mercenary team who are anti-heroes who are trying to stop an evil organization, I think called Nemesis or
Oh no,
something like that.
they're called Legion.
Legion. And so the